Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Trine 2. So we did a interesting DLC level last time in that we were inside the stomach of a monster, and then the level ended with us being vomited out, I assume, out of the monster, and I assume now we're going to just be back to kind of a more traditional area now. We're not actually seeing the sandworm.
Fresh, cool air at last.
We just see a hole in the background. It is a nice cutscene that we're starting off with here, and I guess we're back to fighting goblins.
King Reese now has a base on Cloudy Isles.
Why aren't we there? We're stuck here in the cold looking for stupid metal things.
It's for the great machine that will bring down the human towns.
This character on the right has very bright glowing
Who does that?
highlights to his outfit. Definitely comes off like he's going to be a mage goblin, which, you know, that's not the worst possible thought, certainly, that you could have had an antagonist group and something that was not not the Trine, but something very similar to the Trine, an anti-Trine perhaps, or just a group of 3 mage characters, goblin characters. If I shoot this, it, I guess, slows down things, but you can just see how much that takes to kill a fairly strong goblin character. So all the new skinning in the last level of taking general platforms and concepts for all of that in the last level have now pretty much been forgotten about. Definitely just seems like it's a waste. Meanwhile,
look at the sign. If we could fly, we could make it to Cloudy Isles.
But we need to find Margaret, or they'll kill her.
We'd still move faster.
This sounds very suspicious to me. Flying without wings or magic, well, it just isn't natural.
If anything, this is an example of the physics being really wonky and broken. There's just a lot here. And if the game really does let us fly, just straight up, you can fly anywhere you want to go inside of a level, versus getting the ability perhaps to fly between one level to the next level, that's really going to break the concept of this game. And even these DLC levels, which have been very heavy on giving you a lot more XP, to the point where it's a ridiculous slap in the face, actually, as far as people who wouldn't have bought the complete story DLC, because they just would have not been able to unlock all of the abilities, and the game is not really designed to let you do anything there. Alright. Use a practice of moving in the shadows and not making a sound or finally paying off. The thief is concealed from enemies. Lasts up to 10 seconds while staying still. Wears off at double speed while moving. Touching monsters or attacking removes stealth. Alright, so you just press X and then you're in stealth for what I can only describe as an incredibly insignificant amount of time. You just have a dragon in the foreground. So just very, very late in the game now, we have something that works for the X button on our thief character, and the B button was the low gravity field. And the Y button switches between a regular bow and a fire bow, and A jumps. And seems like the move definitely would have been to wait till those guys actually attack you, because it would have been fairly silly to miss all of that. So I guess that's the way forward, which means this goes this way for a more difficult section. And yeah, the wind just blows you up. Darn it. I guess I could probably just do this. Yeah, just swap to the less important character. Get that less XP. That's just yet another great example, though, of a place that if we really are just going to be able to fly through levels, we will easily make our way through all of that. Come up here and grab that. Or go down into the water and see all of this. Although weirdly, this does kind of feel like there's another thing there, and that I know we missed some XP before because in a previous level, because I could not figure out how to blow something up. Okay. So we've now wedged a cube under that part. And it sounds like... Yeah, I'm not really sure if there is something under that rocks. Or if it's just weird sound effects in the background. I didn't actually hit the checkpoint, which... maybe that's a problem. Let's go ahead and just make sure we touch it. I assume I am touching it. There we go. Well. Let's see. We got this twisting.
Shoot, the door got stuck.
What's that
Then we have a
rumbly
cutscene.
sound?
I thought it was your belly.
Looks like we've got a rock boss. We're gonna fight a new type of character. Which I don't hate that idea. It seems to me like you can just, with the flame sword, jump and slash him and mostly succeed. So I wonder if there was supposed to be any kind of trick where I was supposed to get the explosive rock to fall down by shooting this. you can certainly take this, fling it at an enemy potentially. With that boss fight, it does give the feeling that there's not as many XP collectibles now. It feels to me like you could probably do this, however. Swing this way to get up to that point, to reach up to that point. And see, I don't know if I've actively reached an area that's extra or if I've just skipped a whole section, because that seems like that's a whole different section. These spinner things have never really worked great. Let's go back down this way and let's see if we can properly solve this whole puzzle. I imagine it, yep, that's it. That's the entirety of the puzzle, is that you're just supposed to get better timing on those two ramps. But whatever, we've already solved the puzzle using one of the few very useful abilities versus there being just a lot of useless abilities. Okay, so we see that there's something here. So something's supposed to break. Either that, or I'm supposed to jump from the top. I guess I'm probably supposed to jump from the top. Which... yeah. Just to work your way through all that. Again, it's putting XP behind foreground stuff, and I'm really not enjoying that as a concept. Because it's really, really not fair. I need to, I think, hit a wall and find a nice flat wall that I can jump back to the right side on, but I'm not really seeing that, so let's see if maybe the move is to just fling something up. It's so wonky, but that really does seem like that's the solution. Is to make a cube, give it some forward momentum, ride the cube all the way to the top, and you're gonna hit an invisible wall there anyways. So a lot of empty sequences, and I'm very happy with that. Like, if anything, I guess that's what I didn't like about the main game, is that there definitely was room for perhaps less encounters, less focus on making the knight as important of a character. In a lot of ways, my personal opinion is that the knight should be your backup character that could potentially solve through brute force every solution, whereas this should be a platforming character who is going to play a big role, and this should be your puzzle solving character. But a lot of puzzles certainly seem like they can be brute forced with the platforming ability. Very few puzzles feel like they can be brute forced with the just knight ability. Of course, one thing you could have certainly done here to work on that idea further, you're just gonna die if you fall, would be to have the enemies be a lot weaker in general. Did he fall down to the ground and die? Or is he down there? Yeah, that took a long time for the sound effect to make a clanging sound. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm just never going to get that XP from that character. I guess we're saving up for 2 more levels to do this. Well, you've made a problem here because I used this ability to draw the monster prison around him and then drag the monster prison off the screen to kill him, which is about the only way I can think of to actually kill an enemy with the wizard. You would expect that the experience orb, which you almost certainly should be getting an experience orb, would be way down there, and that it should just magically pathfind directly to you and you should collect that experience orb. But it seems to me like I'm probably too far away, so here's what we'll do. I'll jump and see if we can fall down low enough. Well, I didn't hear the familiar sound of collecting an experience orb that time either, so unless the game is specifically programmed to just give you the experience without the orb actually flying to you, it feels to me like I potentially just created a problem, which could only be resolved by playing the level a second time, because as far as I can tell, there's no other way to respawn enemies. And consistently, that has been the problem with this game, is that it's a game that seems like it wants you to collect everything. And then makes it way too easy to miss one thing. That's kind of a great example there, where I'm not 100% certain that I collected all of the experience orbs there are to be collected. Maybe you make a cube, and then you move the cube down enough to make a line that feels fairly safe. Although, I guess not safe enough. None of that is grappleable, though. More than likely, it would be better just to do this. I'm only getting stabbed a little bit there. Here they've introduced the snowball again, which is really just a reskin on the boulder. Which arguably the game should just always be boulder. Feels like the snowball also, however, broke the platforms. Okay, so we jump up here, and I can't get any higher, but I'm fairly certain that there are actually collectibles up there. Let's throw that upward. Let's see if we can catch up to it. Nah. Throw that up there and jump higher. Well, you know, while I am enjoying getting all this experience, I think for that section I'm just gonna skip it. Like, it does just seem like it would be a lot of work to potentially try and jump, but I do see there is XP there. Okay, so to me it feels like I needed to have kind of made a mad dash to the right and to the left. Yeah, there's just no grapple points. And so if I even hit the wall, I really don't have a way of... Let's see, there's just XP, and then they're broken platforms. So I basically have to do this again. Well, I'll be darned, I got it. I didn't really think I was going to get that. I was willing to basically give up at that point, and then that certainly would have opened up the pathways, certainly for me to justify giving up in other places too. Whoops. Shooting the ice boulders doesn't really do anything. So mostly just come over here.
What a lovely place.
So if that's the extra stuff, well, it seems like this is probably where the game ends. I'd say there's probably close to zero chance of getting through that section without your thief character. So probably is just safest and easiest to get as high as possible, and then 1, 2, 3, I guess, is the move. Yeah. Those are spikes. It weirdly does just feel like there are two different directions you can go here. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay. There's a big grapple section I missed. Of course. Yeah, I'm really confused here as to just why there is two different sections. I guess you just have to hold this down. Come on. Get to the edge and put a time, gravity slowing down, gravity time, whichever one. Theoretically, it's supposed to be slowing down gravity. This is another great example also where the orbs are really poorly displayed. They just visually do not stand out at all. Come on. What happens if we stick this on the spikes? And nothing. It's just so easy to cheat also, I've realized. It's way easier to cheat by doing that than it is to properly find a way back up and just recover from those minor annoyances, which dangerously can certainly become the entirety of some of these levels if you're not careful, so that they can just really get grindy. maybe slowing things down a little bit this way would have helped. Doesn't seem like it. And you got that instantaneous reset, so... Well, I'm not really loving this experience. Like, ideally, you would flip the switch here and it would just move to the right and kind of stay at the right. It doesn't really help anything. Oh, I cannot craft anything. I don't feel like it really helps anything to have the platform move out of the way. Because even if I had the platform perfectly where I want it here, there's still a great amount of work that has to be done as the next step. Now pushing this out of the way might be a little bit helpful. I just have no idea how much time I really should be spending on this. Like, you open to this part and you really don't even have enough. Right. Everything swings back and forth so wobbly that, like, you get to this point, you get on this, you make a jump. Tilt this perfectly. Get it going up smoothly. Is it possible that this really is not the solution? Sure. Absolutely. Alright, well, also I'm just gonna have to take my guess here and assume that this What a Lovely Place actually is some kind of extra area. Either that or this specific level has a secret section that a lot of people are gonna miss.
Huh? Hang on.
So it's a collectible down here. If I can walk right next to it. Then a collectible painting, which really isn't showing much other than the night. And then we've got these platforms. And got this guy who closes his mouth. I'm not a real fan of these types of things where still need one more level. It feels like that's the right way, that it feels like that's the correct path when it really isn't. You see that a decent amount of time in a lot of games, unfortunately, and mostly it just comes down to, if I have to walk one screen length to the right, okay. If I have to walk 2 screen links to the right to check on something, that's fine. But by the time I've gone 3 or 4 or more screen links, I have to assume that that is the correct direction to go. So it runs a little too heavy to throw at people. Okay. I guess the move was to do that. So there's another box just falling off screen. We'll see if we get an orb that unlocks. Although maybe we're just not getting orbs at all on these enemies. This guy seemingly only can be killed with a hammer. Okay. Let's see. I see collectible XP over that direction. I see collectible XP over this direction. Let's throw this moving this way, then use this, and then do this. And that looks like we got everything. I'm not sure if that really is everything. And I don't know if this will just not move because of the low gravity, or if there's actually some other element I'm missing here. Nah, it's the wind. The wind will not allow it to go any further. The wind doesn't feel like it's dying down in any way too, so this may just be glitched. I may have bumped it. Like, you can't physically move any of it. Right. Let's go ahead and save and then return to the last checkpoint. See if that maybe would do something. Actually, that's not how it worked before, was it? It was choose a restart, then load
Free
last
of the
save.
clutches of the giants.
Oh, I see now that there's a rope down below here. So we just need to figure out a way to break the rope. So this may just be something a lot more basic than what we've been doing lately, in that this may just be a case of making a platform. Although, can I possibly wedge a platform? Sure doesn't seem like there's any solution there. Alright. Okay. Destroy this, jump this way, get on that point. Slash this with the arrow. I should have smashed it with a hammer, actually. Wait a minute. This just swings up, doesn't it? Move this just a little bit, and then this should be able to swing up. Nope. Not really. Okay. Let's see if we can pull that off. You know what? I could have pulled that off, come to think of it. I'm just thinking too much with the thief ideas when I could just be floating down here. And then I could have just hammered this when I was here before. And that was everything that needed to happen to then allow this part to happen. Looks like we're about to get attacked by wyverns again. Seems like you can take out two of them potentially at the same time. I got some XP for that. Okay. Couple choices here. First of all, there's a XP over there on the left. And then guess this is where we want to settle it. Okay. No way you're recovering from that though, so you're just straight up killing your character. And then on this one, we need to see if we can get some higher height, get some time slowdown, and hope that that's in the right place. Nope. Nowhere close to the right place. Okay. Run back here, refill our health. I don't know how in the world you'd actually beat a game on hardcore mode in this case. That strikes me as like an insane thought. Okay, that's as high as we can get, and left to their own devices, I don't find that high enough. Arguably, this guy that's not gonna work anyways. Yeah. I think I would have to do something closer to that to get the height. And at that angle, it is probably not gonna work as far as trying to get that last collectible via just a general jump. Yeah, that's not high enough. Oh, we spent way too much time, it feels like, overall in this game, but particularly in this level, just trying to get XP. And this is the kind of stuff that a arguably, depending on what you want, better YouTuber would edit out. If you want to see a true depiction of how difficult games can be, you watch a long player like who makes content kind of like I do, which is perhaps me and a small selection of other people that you've potentially never heard of, or you have the likes of pretty much every other content creator that cuts out every mistake, and admittedly they are good at it too. Like, you would be hard pressed to see somebody like Captain Sparkles, for example, cutting out all the times he's fallen in a parkour jump Minecraft map. I mean, this would give you a platform, so theoretically, if you could stand on this wall and get it to bounce while it had some momentum in the other direction, like, maybe there's something to be said there with that. If I was to take this and let it roll this way, it got bounced in the wrong direction. Although weirdly, it's now bouncing up again. Got it. Let's just go ahead and move forward then. I suspect this is potentially the end of the level, but it could really easily not be. Again, how are you supposed to break this? I just don't have any ability to break anything.
a little chilly here.
Sure, I can cram that up there while standing on the platform. But it's not like these boxes ever explode or anything, so... There you go. So like dropping a box down here doesn't lead it to that section. Perhaps in this case, this throw would hit the water. Okay, the hammer throw can go in the water. Good to know. That does at least tell me generally how I would go about collecting the rest of the missed collectibles throughout levels that happen to be underwater. And in this case, it definitely seems like the goal wasn't to just draw a box, even though that works just as well as it was to use the barrels instead. Let's go ahead and checkpoint that, and then let's go ahead and hover this way and see what things we missed. There's a platform, and there's a vehicle. Clearly this level is experimenting with the idea of more vehicles and not just vehicles that you're using the magic of the wizard to move back and forth.
Uh-oh.
And I guess at a certain level that just begs the question is, are they more interested in having the game focus on introducing more and more vehicles which can be unique to specific levels and aren't part really of the idea of balancing the abilities of the three characters? Or do you want to overemphasize your magic character and give him something to do once again? Okay. Am I ready to go that direction, or should I hover down here and find these other collectibles? Big wall of ice here. Is there?
It's freezing.
Is there a real solution to getting yeah. You're supposed to just turn it. And that is raising the water level some too. Magnetic shield. Would that help in any way? Doesn't seem like it. So missing our most important platforming character, this platforming part of this puzzle, is potentially impossible to solve. You can see that setting something on fire doesn't immediately sizzle it out, and it still is on fire. Which, that's a bit of a shame. I guess the only thing I could think is, could you possibly, you probably can't, make a square, make a square, make a square, and make a square, and then all of those would just magically line up to be high enough to give you a little bit more of a cover. Nope. Return to the last checkpoint instead. And just get your character back. This time we'll go ahead and let's see. Swing and collect these. Go ahead and touch that. Get back there. Alright. We'll just use the low gravity orb once again to make it easier. It's been a long time since we found the poem.
Let's take a boat and sail away. Skyship, take us both astray. I want to show you seas on moon and fly across the great lagoon. What else could I ever desire than fly with you high, then higher?
Okay, it looks like we collected everything. Also, the time slowdown orb is just blocking all the fire mechanics. Arguably, if the general idea is that the time orb was going to be in this game, it should have worked with all the physics that existed in the game way better. It comes off as an unfinished product when you just weirdly have this case of elements not synergizing correctly. Thief carries confusing things in her bottomless bag. Spare scarecrows. Objects will confuse monsters. Scarecrow will explode after a while. So how do you do that? Stealth and disguise. And then you push a scarecrow down. And that's just like one scarecrow. Or maybe there's a slight idea here now that you could fight a little bit better with the thief, but you could always shoot arrows and fight pretty good with the thief character. There's not been anything other than putting things in prisons that would make the wizard viable as a fighter. Yep. I think maybe it's a little bit of backwards thinking in that for each of the characters, they can do something unique that is needed which causes them to not be able to do something that the other two characters can do that is also unique and needed. Or arguably, some basic ideas should be available for each character. Each character should be able to fairly easily kill an enemy. Each character should be able to platform to the same height everywhere. Each character should be able to solve every single puzzle. So puzzles where you have to levitate and move things should have a way that the thief or the knight could do that also. Of course, that makes designing the puzzles a lot more difficult, which, again, I just question if maybe they are under-focused in developing these Trine games on the robustness of the puzzles, or how robust I feel the puzzles really should be, in the sense that they should be solvable with each character, in favor of just putting character resets. But I don't understand the idea of making a hardcore mode if you're actively admitting that most players are going to end up having to reset the lives of a character. Well, I was expecting that to be the end of the game. There, I wasn't really
It's got
expecting.
metal wings.
Doesn't look exactly operational.
Not yet. Let's see if we can do something about that.
Okay. So we have a platforming section where we're, I guess, going to actively try and assemble the flying machine. I don't know if I really believe that there isn't more collectibles higher up. Okay. There's a metal chain here. There's, ironically, a ladder in the background, which that's the thing I definitely would have liked to see more of, is an ability to spawn ladders instead of spawning boxes. Okay. It seems like it only shoots out whatever it's shooting out there when this is twisted. It just doesn't feel like there's enough room for much of anything else. We can do that, and that'll buy us a little bit of time. And yeah, I guess that's it. I guess that's the move, is to come here. Okay. From this angle, we can see that there's a button. I'm not sure what the button does, but it seems to generate this box. So the box is probably important. Stop that. Doing that. That. I mean, certainly could take a box with us and have an extra box for safety, so let's start with that as an idea. So this is, definitely feels like it's Trying to be like a lumber mill. Okay. We have a fan blade. Don't know where the fan blade came from. Well, obviously it's supposed to pop on there. Apparently the conveyor belt has been broken too. Either that or just made a wedged section like that. Okay, so maybe there was a fan blade connected to this. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Why is this so connected like this? You can't grab this light source, you can't grab this light source. And you can grab this. But that seems to not mean much. So. Alright. There's no grapple point, though. My assumption here is we're supposed to just get a little bit more height. Reach over this part here. Swing this here. And do something like that. Was that really the actual intended solution? I have no idea, but it worked. Worked well enough, and I just don't feel like there's anything else more to this puzzle. Let's see. Attach. So the two fan blades are attached, and that seems like that is it. Didn't realize I was going to take the whole platform with me.
Let's set the course towards the legendary Cloudy Isles. I've always wanted to see them.
Flying with engineering? This is just unnatural. What's going to stop us from falling to our deaths?
Oh, Margaret.
So we've got another in-game cutscene that is way more than you get in the main game. Notably, if each of these 7 levels from the DLC were properly integrated into the main story, you would have gone in a lot more varied locations and enjoyed the main story, I imagine, a lot better.
Goblins, according to old goblin legends.
Arguably, you could have also had this whole side journey happen right somewhere in the middle of the main story, where perhaps you saw that first dragon that was an illusion. Or you could have just used the portals of Rosabelle or Isabelle, whichever, to teleport yourself to other lands and then have to find your way back to the main story. Well, yeah. I don't think Cloudy Isles is quite the last level. in this game. That was another hour and 10 minutes to get through this level. We spent quite a lot of extra time, it felt like, looking for XP orbs, and we still didn't find them all. Looking at the achievement level here, we are at about 35 out of 97, so it does just feel like there's an unlikely chance that I would actually collect everything. Particularly when we know that there are some achievements that aren't just about beating a level or collecting all the chests or collecting all the experience, but they're around the idea of bouncing any bouncy on any bouncy surface, or no, having a conjured box bounce on any bouncy surface for 10 seconds was the achievement I got earlier. Like, that's extra work, certainly, to make sure you've done that. And the percentage of people who have done some of these achievements are still incredibly low. Bouncy Bouncy, for example, was only done by 6% of players, and only 16.5% at about of the percentage of players. 16.4% of players is what it says, have beaten the Belly of the Beast level, which is the one we got, the level I played a while ago. I'm also noticing that these achievements sometimes don't seem to pop up, so there may very well be some glitchiness in the achievements anyways, which might explain the slightly lower numbers. But I think you could almost certainly explain all the lower percentage of players as far as finishing these DLC levels down to just people not really caring to finish this game, which is kind of a shame because the DLC levels are much better than the main game levels, but they're locked behind finishing the main game too, whereas I would think these DLC levels might have been better as just another spin-off game. Although then that just creates the problem that I've already complained about, though, of there being too many Trine games. It's just not something that has really succeeded in modern decades as far as just trying to make smaller games that are kind of episodic almost in how often they are released. We definitely aren't in the era, and this game wouldn't have been released in the era where a Super Mario game on the NES could be then ported to the Game Boy, could be then re-released on the Game Boy Color as a way of making extra money selling the same thing, nor are we in that similar era where you can just make Super Mario Land 1, 2, and 3 fairly quickly for the Game Boy. Not sure there really was a great time for that. Arguably, if this Trine series had come out a decade later, it almost certainly would have been a game as a service in some way, or it would have tried to be something like that, where probably not a game as a service where they would constantly commit to making more puzzles as much as it would probably have been a season pass style of game where the season pass would have promised more content over the course of several months. But yeah, I don't think that would have worked either. Like, puzzle games are difficult to get right, certainly. And the vast majority of puzzle games are not made correctly, and they just aren't played by people. Even really popular puzzle games like the Talos Principle and, say, The Witness, not really played particularly well. The Witness notoriously being very expensive for a puzzle game when it came out, and never really going down in price or going on sale, so it lost, I imagine, a decent amount of its audience that it could have had because of that. But even Portal, as a puzzle game, really has to emphasize itself more on the physics and the platforming than the puzzle aspects, to the point where when people generally, or when I generally think of Portal, I don't think of it as a puzzle game at all. and I barely think of it as a platforming game, and think of it more as an action Portal game. Portal itself has just become the default descriptor for a Portal game in my mind because it was so groundbreaking. Of course, if I'm just talking about other games, you can see my interest in this one is not super high. So we'll leave it at that for this episode. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's a link down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.